Hey everybody, welcome into the Delmarva Sports Insider, your go-to live and local show dedicated to giving you all local sports. I'm Sports Director Brandon Bossert.
It's yours truly, sports anchor Devin J. Martin. As always, we've got a whole lot to talk about. Playoff basketball, the weekend ahead. Jesus, Brandon, we have so much things that we have to talk about that I don't even know if we'll be able to fit it into all one show.
Yeah, that's right. You can name the show The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly tonight. We're talking about all things playoffs going on.
Yeah, now we obviously got to start right here in Salisbury. Bennett, they've been great all year, and now they're in the regional quarterfinal game with Crofton.
Yeah, it was a pretty smooth game for the Bennett Clippers tonight, going into the regional semis. The Clippers at home at the Shipyard. Go ahead and take it away, Devin.
Yep, and they had a 10-point lead in the first quarter. Wes Moss with the bucket right there. Bennett was off and running. Now, the transition game. Clippers taking advantage of turnovers. Davion Collins right there all alone. He had 14 for Bennett, but the Clippers surrendering that big lead.
Yeah, Bennett goes into halftime ahead just one. They need a response here, and they got a lot of help from the senior forward, Christian Davis. Davis, all 10 points in the second half, 8 of which came in the fourth quarter. He came up with clutch rebounds that you're seeing right here and putbacks. I love the construction of Bennett's roster this year. Zakai Smullen, Jace Hudson supply great guard play and perimeter shooting for the Clippers. Christian Davis could be the X factor. I think he is in the paint to go on to win this region. But Bennett goes on to win this one step out of 3 to go on to win the region. They win the first step 74-56.
So first we came out a little bit slow. We was down our player, one of our main players. So we had to come out and play our best. And we was able to keep the intensity up and just keep playing throughout everything and execute our plays. It feels amazing. I'm just trying to get back to what we did last year, win regionals.
So now let's take a look at that 3A regional semifinals and how they stack up. Decatur, we are not sure who they are playing as of right now. They had a bye tonight. They're facing either Oxon Hill or Chesapeake. Kind of hard to get scores tonight.
Yeah.
Checking Twitter, checking Facebook, trying to see, where are these scores at? But Bennett will go on to play Northeast, who did have a bye tonight. So I really like how Bennett responded coming out of halftime. They'll need to play a complete game, though, taking on Northeast, and then eventually, no matter who they're playing in the regional final, if they get to that point, Decatur, are you going to take on Chesapeake, or are you going to take on Oxon Hill? Either way, you got to play a complete 36 minutes
Absolutely.
at this point. I'm sorry, 32 minutes.
Right.
My math was
off.
off.
This is playoff basketball. You can't have up and down quarters like that. You got to be consistent. And again, as you mentioned, Bennett, they're going to be playing Northeast. The Northeast Eagles, I think they're the 2 seed while Bennett's a 3 seed. So the Eagles are very good. And if Bennett has a down quarter like they did in the second quarter today,
it could spell disaster.
The Eagles, as you mentioned, that could spell disaster. But we have other great players that's on Bennett that can really carry the load besides just Jace Hudson and Zakai Smullen. Obviously, you mentioned Collins and Christian Davis. He's really good and really important, as you mentioned, because he's their only real big guy that gets a lot of consistent playing time. And so if they have enough production from those 4 players plus the bench and depth, they can win the region. And potentially, if they meet up with Decatur, that's an even balanced matchup between the 2 of those teams.
Yeah, they sure can. All right, let's move on to the 2A playoffs.
Yep, and that's 2 Bayside North rivals who met in the first round. It's the Easton Warriors and the North Carolina Bulldogs. This was at Easton. Now, the Warriors were in control this entire game. They led at 10 at halftime, and they came out firing on all cylinders out the gate. Toby McCall put some arcs on that shot, drills the 3. Now, Nasai Bell, he really tried to put North Carolina on his back today. He was the only one of his team to reach double figures. He had 24 points. Marshall Bailey, the freshman, came out looking poised and relaxed. Look at that. He just pulled
Spot up and knock it down. That's a freshman right there.
Nothing but net. He had 20 points. That gave him a 13-point cushion. You see Bell try to cut into the lead. He was the only one that could really put the ball in the basket tonight for North Carolina. Easton did not have that problem. Sean Moody driving, finding Jordan Nixon. The Warriors' lead doesn't fall below 10 in the second half. They're balanced scoring, carrying them to an easy win. Moody had 19. Nixon had 13. Ryan Hack added 12, and that's on top of Bailey's 20.
Yeah, I think the difference in this game is Easton just has a deeper roster. They are 4-5 deep, and then you've got basically Bell and the Bulldogs over there for North Carolina.
Yep. And so now they're going to be facing Queen Anne's on Tuesday, and I talked to Bailey after the game. He's looking forward to that matchup.
I'm pumped up because both games we played them in the regular season were good games. So we're going to keep that up, and then we just need to play defense, hit our shots, and that's it.
All right, now to a great game with an ugly ending in Stevensville. Over to Kent Island now as they host the Parkside Rams. Bucks down, but David Jeffers pulls up from the top of the key, and he's going to drain the tray ball here. Rams answering right back. Casey Grabbard is going to knock down a teardrop, keep his Rams out in front in the first half. Parkside trying to keep momentum on their side. Dustin Brown getting the steal. Passing ahead to Bryant Waters. Waters takes it in for the easy deuce. Now, KI was down the whole second half until late in the fourth. Bucks get a shot block here, and they go on the fast break. Neil Gaines going to find Lloyd Price for the fast break lay-in. The Bucks would keep their foot on the gas and stay out in front, but unfortunately, this game would get called early due to the KI student section. We got to talk about this.
That is terrible.
It is unclear at this time what was said. Well, this was written about an hour ago before we had more information, but fans, the Parkside players had to be separated. You see the Kent Island student section in the background, multiple players from Parkside were told to go to the locker room, were escorted away by the coaching staff. The game was ended early. Now, it's a shame that the game had to end this way.
Especially the way that it did.
Yeah, a 68-64. KI gets the win. They move on to the number 1 seed, Y High. But, Devin, that is not the top story from this game.
Absolutely not. So before we start talking more about that, let's just get to the rest of the bracket real quick. Obviously, Kent Island will be playing Y High, and then Queen Anne's will be playing Easton. But as you mentioned, very unfortunate way to end things between Parkside and Kent Island. It's obviously not the top story. Obviously, multiple sources have told us what some of those fans and members of the student section allegedly may have said to some of those players on the Rams. I mean, some of the sources told us, and again, they were in the building for this, and they were said that there were a lot of racial epithets, a lot of racial slurs were headed their way, including the Edward multiple times throughout the entire game. And, you know, from what the sources told us, the student athletes handled it very well, but it was towards the very end that it obviously boiled over, and authorities are well aware of what happened and are handling it according to what we've been told. But obviously, disgusting and classless behavior. So something's got to be done if this is true.
Yeah, it was devastating to talk to our sources tonight from that game, talking about how Parkside was going through these things for the entire game, trying to hold back the entire time, said that they did a great job most of the way up until that fourth quarter. Hearing monkey sounds toward them, hearing racial slurs toward them from the student section is what we've been told by multiple sources. And this is not the first time we've heard this from Kent Island. This is a story from February 18th of last year. Racial slurs allegedly used toward Parkside High players during a December basketball game from 2021. Wicomico County's school district confirms to 47 ABC that they were made aware of that incident. There was a picture on social media showing a stuffed monkey tied upside down next to a Black History Month poster. And a quote used in this story from Rob Flax. This is not the first or the second, third, or fourth time that these kinds of incidents have happened.
Yeah, it's just a shame, and as you mentioned, multiple times. So this isn't a one-off situation.
And the school officials were made aware of this, is what we were told.
Absolutely.
And the sources were told they were going to be handling it.
Right.
It was not handled.
And the worst part about it is, especially for right now, as you guys mentioned, could see, only down 42 seconds left, plenty of time. The game was not over. Anything could have happened, but now the ending is always going to be remembered in a negative light in this way, instead of it just being a regular basketball game. And it was just classless if this is something that had happened because of the fans or student section. So there's something that has to be done about this if this is true.
The game is secondary here. It doesn't matter who won or lost this game. I'm honestly just tired of hearing about these stories.
Right.
This can't happen.
No, it's unacceptable.
It doesn't matter if it's Black History Month or not. It just makes it that much more ironic. But this cannot happen.
No, absolutely not. And especially
you've been made aware of this with Kent Island multiple times now, back-to-back years. We need to put a stop to this.
Absolutely.
Who is actually enforcing this at Kent Island?
Absolutely.
That's the question here.
And the people I feel sorry for the most is the students. These are student athletes.
They should not have to go through this.
Exactly. These are teenagers, 15, 16, 17-year-olds dealing with this type of, just this type of negative energy, negativity, racism. It's just unacceptable. And for young men that are just so young and very influenceable, this is something that could stick with them for the rest of their lives that they'll never forget. And they don't deserve for this to happen to them.
It's a basketball game. Do better. All right. Let's move on to the 1A now. Pocomoke defending the house against Washington. Both teams hot and aggressive on defense throughout the game, causing at least 25 free throws for both teams. Washington running the game first 3 quarters, not letting Pocomoke take a lead till the 4th. Hey, what happened to Washington this year?
Yeah, they had a hot start this year, but over the past couple, 10 games, they've kind of fallen off the map, and obviously they struggled today against Pocomoke.
Yeah, Pocomoke taking that lead in the 4th quarter. It was their first lead of the game, leading by 1. Then you see getting through the lane, gets the steal, passing ahead to Adrian Marshall. In the end, Pocomoke is able to go on to take this win 69-60. You see the fans up there cheering on their Warriors. Pocomoke moving on to the regional semifinals.
And obviously for the rest of the bracket, we've got Colonel Richardson. They're going up against Kent County. That game is tomorrow. North Dorchester facing St. Michael's. Snow Hill facing Chrisfield. And Cambridge South Dorchester facing Mardella.
All right, so I think in the 1A, we haven't seen Cambridge South Dorchester play yet in the playoffs, but I think it's basically the Vikings and everyone else this year. I have the standings right here. Cambridge South Dorchester 13-7, but Snow Hill 12-8. Can't forget about Snow Hill. They've had a tremendous year as well. They got some very good wins against Decatur and a few other teams.
They're definitely better than they were last year. I think for the top 3 seeds in the 1A, when it's Cambridge, Snow Hill, and North Dorchester, I think they're just on a different level than everybody else in that whole region. But I think Cambridge is the team to beat because they have the deep playoff experience from last year. I mean, they won the regional championship, made it to the state semifinals in the 1A. Like no other team, like Snow Hill and North Dorchester just can't say that. And I think that experience in terms of playoff experience can kind of boil over or turn over into this season as well. And a lot of the players that were on that team last year for the Vikings are back, and the Vikings coaching staff is also there too.
All right, that'll do it for the A block. We're taking our first time out. Parkside and Queen Anne's coming down to the final seconds. The girls' highlights coming up next on Delmarva Sports Insider.
I'm Brent Ricketts with Seaford Basketball, and you're watching Delmarva Sports Insider.